Jim Beebe here, back at it, Athlete Builder. And as always, we're brought to you by the AEA Institute and the Mental Edge Academy. It's our mental performance software that we're working with our athletes in our high schools and colleges. And now we have Andrew Knueven. Before we even talk about Andrew, shout out Mark Jameson. He's our guy. Southern Illinois, Edwardsville. Got us another Southern Illinois, Edwardsville guy. A little different here. This guy's a strength and conditioning coach. However, with a little bit of a different bent military background. So just talking about Andrew, director of basketball performance. It seems like everywhere he goes, he does well, where he takes over. I'm looking at it right here. It says conference tournament championship. So, and then he's at Cincinnati in Texas, where they have national championships in volleyball and rowing. He has all the letters, got his master's, has his CSCS from the NSCA, so all the alphabet soup after his name, got that. But also an infantry Marine from 2014 to 19, tours in Afghanistan. So we got Andrew on today, different background. We're going to get into that. What the lessons learned from the military, the lessons learned from strength and conditioning, how there's overlap or not. But first, right at the bat, Andrew, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to getting into it a little bit with you.
For sure. The Olympics are on right now, and by the time this episode releases, the Olympics will be over. What are your favorite sports to watch in the Winter Games?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I'm not really a big Olympics guy. I will say curling interests me, just because I don't really get it, but it's fun to watch. Other than that, snowboarding is pretty cool. I'm always impressed by like the ones where they come down from a super high landing. They're able to absorb that impact pretty well. So yeah, those would be like the ones that I'd be most interested in watching. But I'd say top of the list is curling, just for the uniqueness of it.
Right. When you're in the strength and conditioning world and you have athletes doing depth jumps or they're jumping off of things where they have to absorb force, you're a bit sensitive, or at least aware, like, oh shoot, they must have some real ability there to absorb impact. And you're right. If you were to perform in an Winter Olympic sport, what's one that you'd be interested in doing?
Oh, man, so I think I've seen the most of like the training for bobsled, so I think that would be pretty cool. It's a lot of acceleration, and then you just kind of hop in your vehicle and you get going down the fun little slide there, I guess.
Right.
So I guess that seems like the most interesting one to train for.
That's one where it's raw power wins out for most of the event, unless you're the pilot and you're the person that's steering that darn thing. If that's the case, then there's a lot more to it. But if you're just hauling ass and then just duck down there, so definitely a lot less technical. That's probably where I would come in, where I could just be a dumb ox but super powerful and just kind of like don't have to be that
Exactly.
bright. That seems kind of capable for me. How about summer games? If the summer games are going on right now, what's an event you would like, or one you think you might want to do?
Um, let's see. Summer games. I think the one that's most exciting for me to watch, honestly, is the 100-meter. I just like seeing the pure speed and power
All
that they put
gas,
out. All gas, no brakes.
right?
Yeah, I think that, and then like the cycling one. I watched the Paris last year where they had the cycling through the city. That looked pretty cool. It's almost like you're going on a tour, but it's a little bit harder.
For sure, yeah, I guess. I
Just a
like
little, just a little
Bill
bit.
Murray's approach where he says that they should show a regular person doing the event so you can see for context, how really good these other folks are. I
Yeah.
like the 100. I like to watch the 400 because it's more painful. Um, I like watching the 5,000 because I watched the Prefontaine movie so many years ago. If I were to do an event, anything where it's throwing, where I think you can just be really powerful and kind of skate with that chaos as you're spinning around. Lift heavy, be powerful, work on your technique, go home, drink beer. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure that's not what they do, but and for this past weekend they had the NBA All-Star game, and it says you're director of basketball performance. Do you have an NBA team you cheer for, you care about, or not so much?
This is probably going to get me in trouble with somebody, but I actually don't watch a ton of basketball. I obviously watch college because I'm interested in what's going on with within my own organization. But yeah, no NBA team. Big fan of like KD, Kyrie, those kind of guys that have that unique play style. But yeah, I don't have a team I root for.
Yeah, I don't watch that much NBA. I'm an older guy, so Jordan leaves the sport. I'm a lot less interested. Being from Cleveland, big Cavaliers fan, but I might watch games late in the playoffs, and that's about it. Here says infantry marine, so um, one of those devil dogs, one of grunt like Leatherneck, one of those guys that's on tour in Afghanistan. One, why the military? Two, why the Marines? And three, what was your welcome to the Marine moment where you're like, shit, this is real now. This isn't just looking at a poster, thinking about it. This is serious. So why the military? Two, why the Marines? And three, holy cow, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had an interest in the military. Obviously, that those are a bunch of guys that go out there and they sacrifice for our well being, right? So a lot of respect going that way. But um, I kind of joined. I wanted to join on my own, but I also wasn't very good at football, which is the sport that I played in high school. So I knew I wasn't going to college for that. Um, and I also just didn't really like school. Ironic that I ended up going to get a master's after that, but um, yeah, I didn't really like school. Wasn't good enough to play sports in college. So I was like, hey, the military is the route for me. Um, the Marines specifically, I figured, if I'm gonna do something, I wanna be the best at it, and they're the best branch of the military. Obviously, you got your special forces in the Army and the Navy, but just general, uh, infantry, which is the job I wanted to do. The Marines are top of that totem pole. As far as welcome to the Marines moments, there's honestly a lot of them. So you get to Paris Island or San Diego. I went to Paris Island. When you get off the bus, everyone's yelling and screaming at you, and there's these yellow footprints that are on the ground outside the gate at Paris Island, and they're positioned at attention. So you got your feet about 11 to 2, 10 to 2, and you're standing there getting yelled at, standing at attention on these footprints, and that's the moment when you're like, I probably shouldn't have done this. Like this was a bad choice. But yeah, that was kind of the first one, and then I think a lot of people will agree. Like boot camp, you kind of get used to it. Once you get to those final weeks, you're like, man, I got this. I know what to do. I know how to be a Marine. And then you get to your MOS school, your job school, and it's just another culture shock. It's long days and nights in the field, carrying heavy weapons around. And then you think you've made it there, and then you get to the fleet, you get to your permanent duty station, and it's just a whole whirlwind of you know long weeks in the field, hazing when you're not in the field, hazing when you're in the field. It's there's definitely a lot of welcome to the Marine Corps moments. But yeah, maybe we can get further into that a little bit later in the podcast.
Did at any point in time were you thinking, you know what? How do I get out of this?
There's always that moment in boot camp, and a lot of people take the opportunity, but there's always the moment where if you get an injury or something happens, severe, they'll kind of put you in a reserve platoon, and then if you can never really get out of the reserve platoon, then they'll kick you out. So there's always those moments, during the tough weeks where you're like, man, I could really go just sit in that reserve platoon right now. But yeah, it's I'd say the hikes, the fitness part of it, the rifle range is fun. I wanted to be there, but other than that, pretty much every day you're like, there's an easy way out of this, and it's always a button you could push.
Yeah. Just consistently don't meet the standard. They'll find a way for you to be somewhere else. Do
They'll figure
you
it out.
said your MOS. What was your job? What was your job duty?
So my MOS was 0341. It's actually infantry mortarman. I was in an infantry battalion. So every Marine is a rifleman, right? We all had our basic rifleman duties, but I had, uh, additionally to that, I was in charge of a squad for a mortar gun. For those that don't know, a mortar is basically a cannon, right? So you put the cannon on the ground and you point it in a general direction. You drop the round in, it goes off, it goes up in the air, it comes back down, explodes. However far away you're shooting it. Um, but I worked in that capacity. I worked with several different platoons. One was more of a heavy weapons platoon where I had a little bit bigger gun. And then I went to like a line platoon, which is basically your normal infantry company that just has mortars attached to them. And then when I deployed, I actually used a 120 millimeter gun, which is huge. It's a huge cannon. They're typically on vehicles. They're typically in artillery battalions because they're so massive. But we were kind of the first gun squad to deploy as like a mobile infantry unit with those cannons.
When people ask what's a mortar, my general description is it's like a really awesome potato gun that aims up in the air, makes kind
Yeah.
of a noise, and then next thing you know, it's not just a potato exploding; it's a whole bunch of things exploding. So it's a lot more fun to watch. When you say that, I didn't really do that well in school. I like football. You go in the Marines, it's a physical line of work, right? And whether you're just doing the PT, but there's also like combat, and there's a whole lifestyle where you're a warrior, right? You're trained to fight, and then you're starting to finish out your number of years, your 4 years, and you're like, well, shoot, I got the GI Bill, probably. You got college paid for if they want to do it. At least your undergrad or X number of dollars. You start thinking, well, I wasn't that good in school, but I'm going to go to school not only for my undergraduate, but also get my master's. So walk me through the line of thinking that, hey, I'm going to be in the Marine. I'm finishing up my career here. I want to get into athletics. I'm going to be in the school for a little while, getting a lot smarter at some things. Just walk me through like, hey, this might be the path for me because you've been in the path for a little while now and you're having success. So just walk me through that.
Yeah, so I think a lot of kids would identify with that, right? You get out of high school and you that's kind of all you know is the education side of things. So I was done with that for a while, and then I got 4 years away from it, and then I was going to get out because I knew for a fact I wanted to get out. I had kind of had my time there. Um, but one of my influences in high school, because I loved playing football a lot, but I wasn't very good at it. So naturally, I gravitated toward the weight room side of it, which is probably a familiar story for a lot of people. Um, but I really looked up to the strength and conditioning coach that we had at the time. So I kind of reached out to him. He was like, "Hey, if you wanna do this, you need to get your CSCS. Requirement for that is a bachelor's in a health related field." So I started looking into that, close to home. University of Cincinnati is right down the road from where I grew up. So I went there, started doing the bachelor's, interned for a few months with Olympic sports down there, and interned with men's basketball down there. Um, and I kind of just fell in love with the physiology, kinesiology stuff, and I was like, hey, like if I'm gonna do this as my career, I should probably, again, just like the Marines, I want to be the best at it. I want to have that foundation where I know a lot of things and I can apply it to what we're doing in the weight room. So I figured getting my master's was the next step in that.
Nice. So, my son played football at Ball State, and one of his buddies, his name's Joey, but he went to Cincinnati Elder. I don't know if that's too close to where you went to school because you said you were near Cincinnati. But
Yeah, it's
he
it's
was
uh it's down the street, but they're they're a Division 1 program. We were a Division 2. We played them a couple times maybe, but yeah, that's one of the
gotcha.
bigger schools. They were pretty good at football.
Yeah, pretty good, right? Cincinnati, St. Xavier, I think is another one I knew of, and a couple others. So yeah. Well, how's a big hotbed for football? So I get that. All right, so I see it says it right here, man. Um, National champions, Texas, not a small school, volleyball, rowing teams. Um, Start working your way up, learning more things. So you're getting smarter. with your brain's getting smarter, but also you have the overall experience of how the body works. My wife just said the other day that she thought it'd be she was, just in theory, like the Israelis require 2 years. Everybody's in the military 2 years once they finish high school. And I thought, well, 1 year you have to be disciplined. Two, you're going to have to be in shape. Three, gives you 2 more years to kind of figure your life out a little bit. And so it's harder and harder for kids today to be like, all right, I'm 18. This is what I'm doing. Right. I can tell you at 51, I can't tell you how many jobs I've had eight, maybe nine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Financial world MBA, 15 years, right? Running the gym, 13 years, completely different. So I like that you had some time to think about, kind of find yourself a little bit in a very structured, disciplined way, and then you come out and you're like, all right, I'm going to apply this approach, and enter this field.
Yeah,
You,
100%. I think that's something that is kind of pushed now is like go to college right after high school, but I would have had no idea what I wanted to do at that point. So I would have kind of just been wasting time. But I think to your point, like the 2 years required service, I'm not recommending that, but it does give you a little it does give you a little bit of time to figure out what you want to do.
it does. We'll get right into this one. My values always direct my decisions, and I can tell you that Jim at 16 and 26 and 36 and 46 and now 51, the values weren't always the same. And I'd like to say they were, but I made way worse choices when I was younger. You know, being reckless, having all sorts of ups and downs. But overall, as you get older, you kind of mature, hopefully, and you make some decisions like, hey, this is how I'm going to live my life. Summarize, values you picked up from growing up, the Marine Corps, being in college, and being an adult. 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 words, whatever. I can tell you what the six are with this podcast and the gym, but I want to hear, how they kind of guide you, Andrew.
Yeah, so I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna use the Marine Corps three core values: honor, courage, commitment. To me, I'll go backwards. Commitment is number one. If you don't have commitment to what you're doing, you can't have courage and honor in what you're doing. So to me, that's a big one. That just means, if I say I'm going to do something, or I raise my hand, I'm doing that thing to its completion, right? Um, Courage, obviously. There's going to be adversity. Is just kind of how you respond to adversity. Being resilient, being um, I'm losing the word here, but being able to bounce back from hard things and grow stronger from that. Um, and then honor. I think there's a lot of words similar to honor that you could put there. But basically, just being a man of your word. If you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. Similar to commitment. Um, but just kind of all encompassing, being a man of honor, being someone that's trustworthy, and that even when they're not being supervised, they're doing the right thing.
Hmm. So if this were like a job interview, my follow-up question would be, Andrew, describe a time in your life where you broke one of those and the lesson you learned and what happened next.
Let's see. um, you know, Sometimes it's hard to be committed to things. Sometimes you get into an activity and you're like, "Oh man, I don't like this at all." Let's see. Yeah, I think
I
I
was in
think one of the
mechanical engineering
things.
for 3 semesters. I can tell you I wasn't that committed after 3 semesters. I hated
Yeah,
it.
yeah. One of the things, honestly, the one of the things that I can't commit to is power lift training. It's something I've tried so many times, but every time I try it, my joints just get so beat up and I can't move well. Um, which is unfortunate because strength is definitely a quality that I could work on, but unable to commit to the joint pain and all that comes with it.
Mm. So powerlifting, squat, bench, deadlift, that's what you're talking about?
Squat, bench, deadlift. I of course still do all those things. It's just the volume and frequency that power lifters do them with. Anytime I run a powerlifting program, it's usually at least 2 days a week of each lift, if not doing each lift 3 times a week. So it
Wow,
starts to take a toll on your body.
that's a lot. On average, I go with a more of a west side approach. One upper body day heavy, one upper lower body day heavy, and then one upper speed, one lower speed. if I'm really trying to push and improve. For the most part, it's much less than that. I'm just maintaining a level of strength, maintaining a level of cardio capacity, and then getting on with my day. I haven't since last year's event. I haven't really pushed. I just been maintaining. So differences. Let's get right into this because this is a topic you wanted to talk about. Differences between military and athletics. How would you sum that up? Whether it's the people, the culture, and then let's talk about training those different kinds of folks.
Yeah, so I think number one, the culture piece of it, there's a warrior ethos to both, right? But one is a little bit more mandatory, and I think this is where courage and commitment comes into play. In the military, you're a warrior first, right? Um, you're kind of locked in for the duration of your contract. Once you hit the fleet, there's no getting out of it, right? So um, you have that commitment whether you want it or not. So it's kind of up to you to just keep pushing through at your best ability. Whereas in athletics, everyone wants to be a warrior until things get tough, and then the attitude kind of shifts a little bit. The courage to do the hard things, to bounce back from adversity, um, and the commitment to what you signed on for kind of wavers a little bit. And the balance of, as a coach, knowing how to approach that is something I still struggle with. But I'm hoping that using my past experience and the experience I'm getting right now, that's something that I can improve on in the future. Um, but yeah, I think that's one difference. As
Let me
far
ask you
as
about that. So,
yeah,
if you have a platoon in the Marines, yes, you can go ahead and legislate. Hey, this is the way it is. I'm in charge. I outrank you. Here you go. So you can legislate that, get the quality, it's not necessarily a quality leadership approach, but it's still one that has some level of working.
effect.
Getting buy-in, explaining why, so inspiring, but also educating. That's going to help some. With the athletes, though, you can legislate as well. Hey, you're not going to play. And then the athletes can also be a little bit more mobile than they have been in years past, where they could say, hey, yeah, well, you know what? I can enter the portal next week and see you around. So it's not as cut and dry. So it seems one is a little less authoritative, like sports, right? Military a little bit more. But either way, there's going to be some components where you got to reach that athlete to build some buy-in, right? And even if you reach the Marine to get some more buy-in, yeah, they have those. We agreed to do this. You can't get out, but there's still body language. There's still overall effort, right? And you still got
Yeah,
to get a little
absolutely.
bit more out of that person. So how do you go about doing that? In your role now when you're coaching athletes, when people don't want to do hard things. Is it running the sprints? Is it doing a heavy max out? Is it pushing heavy sleds? Is it going to bed on time? Is it tracking your food? What are some of the hard things that, like, man, this is challenging, but people are like, hell with that. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the person, right? The individual. So people naturally gravitate towards what they're really good at. So I've got examples on my teams. I've got guys that are really good at the cardio fitness type stuff. So it's easy to get them to do it. But I've got guys that are really good at the weight room stuff, and it's not as easy to get them to go and do the conditioning, right? But I think one of the things that I talked about with those guys this summer is, and I stole this from somewhere. Sorry, I can't give credit, but one of the best sources of motivation is deprivation, right? So what are you deprived of if you don't kind of kick yourself in gear and do the work that's necessary to get to that next level? So I've kind of used the example with our teams. We won a conference championship last year, right? And not all of those guys are on the team this year. But there are a lot of new guys who saw that and they want that, right? So one of the things that I would say is hey, like you're naturally not as good at this activity, um, but that's kind of a gap for you to achieve, that conference tournament, to achieve the goal that you're looking at right now. You need to strengthen your weaknesses and maintain your strengths.
Hmm. The ego comes into play a little bit and do things you're not as good at. Plus, it doesn't feel as good, like feel. So you're like, well, I'm going on how I feel. And people say you got to be stronger than your feelings. This is one of those moments. It is challenging. I think when I tell my athletes in the moment, when I ask of you as a coach, in the moment, your brain's going to say no. You're programmed to not want to. So before the session starts, pre-decide about being intentional today that if I push you in a certain area, it's because you need it and I want it for you. Let's agree now to do it and not think about it then. Because in the moment, your mind's going to say, no, I don't feel like doing that shit. But if you pre-decide now, at least you got a better shot. Hey, I decided, and I'll say, hey, this is that moment. We talked about it beforehand. This next part's gonna suck. It's gonna be only for a short while. Nothing's going on forever. Let's just get in there and go. So you can get a little buy-in, then people are willing to do a little bit more. And I agree. I wrote down your one of your pieces here. It was basically that if you take something away, or if there's a pain involved, you're more likely to adjust. I mean, no one touches the stove that's super hot multiple times, right? Versus you said, hey, our mantra is win the day. Like building the best version of yourself is a positive thing. It's great. There's no real negative if you don't, right? Like maybe you build a good version of yourself, but not the best version. If you're not playing, that's a negative. If type you got diabetes because you're so fat, that's a negative. Like you're gonna die earlier, that's a negative, right? So now there's pain involved, and like it or not, in my opinion, the the stick outweighs the carrot in terms of getting people to move forward. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. I'd say the stick is the pain of not getting the carrot sometimes, right? I talked about the conference championship, right? Like
That's
that's
just
the
absence.
carrot,
Yeah,
right?
right.
That's the carrot 100%. But man, you gotta hate losing more than you love winning, because that feeling of, especially if you make it to the end and you lose that last game, that stings. That stings for sure. Um, you had said something about kind of building habits, coming out and having a mindset that, hey, you're gonna ask me to do something today in training that I don't want to do, but I just need to have that mindset that I'm just gonna say yes.
Yeah,
Um,
pre-decide. Yep.
pre-decide, which kind of reminded me last year of one of our mottos. It was I'm not sure where it came from. I know the physiology behind it, but well, our motto was build the myelin, right? So every time you do an activity, you have either a positive or a negative response. The way you act in the moment to the outcome of that event is going to build on itself every time. Let's say in basketball, let's say you go out and you miss a shot. If the first thing you do is hang your head and say, oh man, I like, what's wrong with me? That's just going to keep piling up, piling up. You're training your body to react that way. And I think that's kind of what you were saying, is like training your body to react a certain way in the moment. And if you go out there and you miss a shot, hey, right back in it next play, and you go out
Sure.
there and you bang the next one, right? So you're building on top of, even negative outcomes. You're building positive responses to those outcomes, and I think that was really helpful for us last year.
I don't know if you follow Jocko Willink much at all or hear of him. He's a former SEAL. He has his own podcast. He's all about leadership, right? And one of his mantras is simply the word good. And he would there's a video where it's just a montage of all these terrible scenarios, and where he says good, right? Good. It's written on a wall in my gym. So to your point, I miss a free throw, and you're like, shit, right? And you'll see people's body language, and you'll see people around it, and so everything, all this stimulus, positive and negative, is coming at you all the time. So you're being impacted, and you're also impacting. So if my response is good, what happened there? So I'm trying to learn. All right, adjustment, and then I move on to the next play. So good, learn, adjustment, and that's it. 3 words, move on to the next thing. Good, learn, adjustment, and that could work for some people not. But the point is to pre-decide what your approach is going to be before practice or before the game. implement all throughout the practice and the game. Then afterwards, look in your notebook and say, hey, this is my approach. How did I do versus my approach? How did I feel? How did my approach work? Do that for a few weeks, get some more data, and then decide, do I want to adjust my approach or not? Right? But if you can pre-decide these things in advance, then you don't need to worry about some of these things in the moment because you've already decided. The mental strength, your mental focus can go elsewhere because then some of those things are now more automatic. If everything has to be assessed all in the moment, then that's exhausting, right? So you can say, hey man, at least today I'm gonna say good and learn from everything.
Yeah,
That's my approach.
100%. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna steal that if that's all right.
Please. It's the it's one of our it's a cheat. It's one of our approaches with the Mental Edge Academy. So we want people thinking in advance. And I'm a big James Clear Atomic Habits guy. Um, like Lent's coming up. I'm Catholic, starts this Wednesday. I know that all the chips and all the pretzels are going to be gone because that's the thing I'm going to give up because I like it a lot. So I'm going to give that up and think about what I'm doing during Lent. But I'm not going to put them in the house, right? So
Yeah,
it makes it
set
easier. I don't
yourself
buy
up.
it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If I don't have tons of naked girls and booze around me, I'm probably going to be okay with my marriage, right? Right. That's not real hard. Um, now, Andrew, how old are you?
I am 29,
Coming up on 30, right?
coming up on 30.
Good 10 plus years past being an adult. Things change pretty quickly. NIL. Since you've been in the college business, for our parents and student athletes, talk about the realities there, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what you've seen with the portal and whatnot.
Yeah, so I'll start with, what I've experienced personally with the portal is just guys coming and going on a more frequent basis. You get that kind of revolving door, right? So you're getting maybe a freshman in who has very low training age, and you try to make some headway with them in your physical prep, your training, and then you get maybe 8 weeks of the summer where you're very consistent. Everything's going according to plan. Then you get into your 20 hours, you get into your non-conference play, you get into conference play, and it's a little bit more variable, right? So you don't have, um, hey, we're lifting at this time on this day, every week. So you miss a few sessions here and there. You don't progress the same in season as you do out of season. And then March hits and the kid enters the portal and goes to the next school and repeats the process, right? So one of the things that we're lacking is a long-term athletic development plan for these athletes, right? They're not at the same place. They go to the next strength coach next year, and he has no idea, what we did the year prior, what our metrics were that we're tracking, what our plan was. He just kind of starts his own thing. And then, kid transfers out next year, and he's just kind of going through that revolving door of coaches. So there's a lot of inconsistency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then just, some of the things that I've heard from other people is kind of the bidding wars, right? With the NIL, like you offer a kid X amount of money to come play for you, and they're all about it. They agree. You're planning out your roster based on that person that you just signed, right? And then they go and they get offered, 2,000-3,000 more at another school, and they go there, right? So it's hard to build out your plan. Um, as you get closer to the season, you're kind of reworking some things that you thought you had and now you don't.
Do you still come across students? Like I had this one, I won't mention his name, but his dad and I are good friends. He's an athletic director in high school. He played college, he coached my son who played in college. His son's gonna be playing in college. And the son plays football and he was getting offers from lower, D1 schools and some Power 4 schools, and then D2, D3, NAI. So the whole gamut. And his spiel to all these colleges was, wherever I go, I want to win a conference championship there and see what I can do at that school. I don't want to be in the portal sticking or jumping around. I want to get my degree. I want to see what I can do with that school. And the coaches are so conditioned that to not hear that, they're like, hey man, you can be here for 2 years and you can already move up and be out in 2 years. Or they're selling the kid on you only need to be here for a little while, then you can move up, right? Which not every kid can move up because it's a zero-sum game. Um, and finally, one of the schools said, hey, you know what? We'll help build around you. And if you want to be here for 4 years, we'll help develop you. Just say that and mean it, and then we'll stick by it. And he goes, and the kid's like, yeah, if that's what you mean, this is what I mean. And then that's where he signed. And he's really happy and content. Do you still come across kids at all that say, hey, man, like, I just want to be here and see how it goes, right? Or is that completely gone?
I think you still have some element of it, right? There's obviously the hometown kids. Like I can think of a couple kids on our roster that have been here for a few years, and they're bought into this program because that's kind of what they grew up with, right? Got a lot of relationships in the area, got good relationships with the coaches and all the athletic staff. So you got that crowd. And then you also have the crowd that, like you said, I'm coming in here because I want to win I want to I want to work for this team so that we can win a conference championship, right? And I think that's one of the better kind of kids that you can have on your roster, right? They're not in it for themselves. They're not necessarily thinking long term. They're thinking short term, right? They want to win that conference championship. Um, but the mentality of, I'm going to come into the program. I'm going to work my butt off, whether it's 40 minutes on the court or whether it's, scout team every week, just helping sharpen our guys that are playing a little bit more. Doesn't really matter to me if I'm playing or not. I'm here to make the team better so we can win a championship. And I think that's one of the better kids you can have on your roster right now. And then you do have your kids that are, just there because that was the best option they had. And they'll look for the next best option next year.
Sure. On the flip side, there's plenty of coaches that are doing the right thing, some that are trying to do the right thing, and some are worse than used car salesmen. Well, they'll just sell you a bill of goods and hey, here's the deal, but it's not really the deal. Hey, we care about you, but they really don't. In fact, some will just flat out lie. I've come across those too because they have liars in every industry, right? There's no place where it's safe, right? There's always going to be the bell curve where people are doing those things. Talk about how like that part alone, like if it's not he said, she said, but if the kids can't believe the coaches and the coaches can't believe the kids, then how do you guys build your culture? Because, you talk about, honor and courage and commitment. How do you guys build a culture? And if you have this answer, you're probably going to be a lot wealthier in the next 12 months, right? Because this is really kind of the thing, right? How do you build a culture when there's that dichotomy of just being honest and transparent and truthful about what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I think you just start by defining what a team is. And to me, the definition of a team is a group of individuals that come together for a shared purpose, right? If we come to, we come to the table, it doesn't matter if we're talking about money, playing time, whatever perks you got. If I think this is the best fit for me and for the program as far as our ultimate goal, which is, the championship at the end of the year, um, I think you build a culture around that. So obviously you got different pieces that go into that and how you're going to promote and enforce that culture. But step one has to be everyone's on the same page with what the goal is.
For sure. And that makes a lot, clarity of mission is what we would call that. Clarity of mission. So we're all on the same mission, we're rowing in the same direction. We got a better shot. Quote by Emerson, you listed here, which I love. In my walks, every man I meet is my superior in some way, and in that I learn from him. Talk about why you put that down on your sheet here.
Yeah, that's something I live by because no matter how much time you spend studying a certain subject or how much time you've spent uh, on the floor coaching, you're always limited to your experience, right? you're always limited to your lens of how you see things. So every person you meet is going to have a different lens because we're all different people. We think differently, we act differently, um, and everyone has different information from what you have. So I think just having a understanding and a willingness to learn from others has definitely helped me grow. Um,
Mhm.
if I had come into SIUE 2 years ago and I had said, "Man, I know it all. I got this job. I'm the guy in charge." I'd still be the same guy I was 2 years ago. And I can tell you, I've learned um, so much in the last 2 years. And it's crazy to think that if I had, not seen other people as my superior in some way, where I'd be at now.
Hmm. I had a job where I was a trader, and the owner and the boss was an ex Air Force fighter pilot. Flew also was with the Thunderbirds, and he would say, "Man, the last thing I want from you, Jim, is to be a yes man. Like I want, if you have conflict and you see something different, he goes, we want to use that Socratic method and figure it out." So when I had my coaches at my gym, I'm teaching the things that I know and going over. I'm a big conjugate guy for the most part, but a lot of times I don't use it at all. But when I talk to my coaches, they're talking about how they want to do the same thing that I do. I said, "That's great, but if you just do what I do, then you're only as smart as me. And I got to know that I'm not the smartest one. There's got to be something else that knows some other things that I don't. So find a voice, find a different idea, find something that's completely contrary and see how it is." I loved how Louis Simmons would go to a powerlifting meet, coaching everybody on conjugate, and there's a guy that he brings who squats 1,000. But then there's another competitor who climbed that same mountain to squat 1,000, who doesn't use that method at all. But they're still squatting 1,000. So he's got to know something, right? So if
Yeah.
you take that approach, just like you said, hey man, you got to know something, and assume you don't know everything, then you got a shot to actually grow and evolve, which for me is the most fun thing. If I sit there and I'm stuck, then I ask myself, what the hell am I doing? Right? I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, you're the smartest person you know if you never listen to other smart people, right? So you gotta get out there and listen to other people. Um, One of my mentors in the field, um, he would always tell me, I don't try to go out there and find the answers by myself. Whether it's programming styles, whether it's sprint technique or anything. He always said he would go to someone that's an expert in that field and he would learn from them. And there's not just one expert in any field, right? There's a lot of different people that you can pull from. So kind of having that mindset where you're going to learn from others is just a crucial part of developing as a coach and as a human.
Yes, totally agreed. Yeah, this requires a little bit of humility and putting aside your ego, which for me can be challenging and for others can be challenging too. Um, the last piece I had here. Oh, when you're dealing with, like you said, that so kids will come in, and I've seen them at like they'll come in as a freshman in college, and they could barely lunge, but they're a D1 athlete. And if you follow, like Carson Steele used to play for the Chiefs, and he was a freshman when my son was a freshman. He started at Ball State, and day one he back squatted um, 500 for 10. So there's a difference between I can't lunge and a guy who squats 500 for 10, right? At a 215, 220 body weight. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Talk about a needs analysis. So basketball needs analysis is different than a thrower, different than the lacrosse player, different than a football player. Talk about needs analysis and hey man, year one, year two, I need this person to be able to handle the volume of going from high school to college, hanging against adults now. Some based on the the number of years could be 24 years old versus a 17-year-old kid for 24-year-old grown-ass man or woman. Talk about the needs analysis and getting them prepared to play and how you prioritize for them.
Yeah. So very general needs analysis would be kind of looking at the biomotor demands of the sport, right? So you're looking at different joint angles that you're going to experience, common positions, X cells, D cells, the volume on those, intensity, um, and then you have the energetic demands. So how long is our periods of active play? Um, what intensities are you moving at during those active periods? How long do you have to rest in between those periods, right? Um, so that's something that I'll do each time I take over a new team, right? So the game kind of stays the same, but then you have the that team, right? So a lot of coaches have different coaching styles. So I always say that the practice should be and is usually harder than the game, right? So you play a game for 40 minutes, but you're at practice for 2.5 hours accumulating volume, right? So the next part of the needs analysis is, what do these kids experience on a daily basis? So what is the coach's style? What do his or her practices look like? Are they doing a lot of um, low intensity, high volume? Are they doing a lot of high intensity, low volume? Basically, anything that you can track with a wearable. So one of the things that I wish we had that we don't is like the GPS or the Connexon type units, so I can see, how many high intensity jumps are we getting, how many sprints, how many high intensity XLs, decels, all that kind of stuff. Um, and you can take that data and you can work backwards to the off season, right? So we need to accumulate X amount of high intensity decels in practice. So I'll just slowly walk that back to the beginning of our training, and I'll slowly build that up over time, right? Um, so that would be the practice needs analysis, the coach style needs analysis, and then you also have your individual needs analysis. Like you said, the guy that squats 500 and the guy that can't perform a bodyweight lunge have two very different probably body types, different active, passive ranges of motion, all that kind of stuff, different coordination. So that's just something you have to look at in conjunction with all the other, the sport needs analysis and the coaching style needs analysis. Um, but yeah, you would take all that information, you would kind of bucket athletes into, you know, fulfilling those different priorities. So we talked about the guys that have, they're really good in the weight room, but they suck at the conditioning stuff, or vice versa. So you have that information, so you know what you need to train for those individuals.
Do you see any trends for the kids coming out of high school now?
To be honest with you, we don't get a lot of freshmen. Um, Anecdotally, with the one or two freshmen that I've had the experience with, there's not a lot of strength and conditioning at the high school level. And if there is, it's usually like coach led, like sport coach led, very basic, like squat, lunge, hinge, all that stuff, which is great, but maybe not performed at the highest level. I have had a couple freshmen that had really good strength coaches, and they were doing stuff that's probably more advanced than what I do, but I think that's probably more rare. But I don't know, the way the field is going, I think there's going to be growth in that high school strength and conditioning area.
I think there has to be, because they're going to be having that the big stick that you and I talked about, with them playing so much AAU ball and basketball and all that volume and ACL tear growth, MCL tear growth problems, um, without having their core, their glutes, and their hamstrings strong enough for them to withstand all the force played on their knees. At some point, coaches and parents can be like, you know what? Kids are always tearing their knees. We probably need to be a little bit stronger here. Not as much change of direction work all day long, 11 months a year, where they think maybe 2 times a week in February they can get some lifting in and call it good. At some point, they're going to say, hey, man, supply demand. I'm running out of kids because they're all banged up and ruined. So we probably should lift a little bit more. I think the pendulum at some point will shift that way a little bit. How about you? We talked a little bit beforehand. When you're lifting, what do you like to listen to?
I listen to a little bit of everything. I'd say probably about 40% of the time I'm listening to rap, hip hop, another 40% country music, 20% podcasts. It
Okay.
varies.
All right. Well, check out the Athlete Builder one and make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share,
Absolutely.
is what my kids would say. What's a bucket list adventure? You and I think you said you're married, right?
Yep. Me and my wife Natalie.
A bucket list you guys haven't been on yet. Where would you guys like to go?
Yeah, I'd love for us to go to the Black Forest in Germany.
Okay.
I don't know a ton about it, but we both love hiking, and I've seen a few pictures from the Black Forest, and it's just massive, beautiful mountainscape with a lot of like hiking spots, a lot of trails, all that kind of stuff. I think that would be fun.
Awesome. My wife and I are big dorks and we like that crap a ton. So if we have the ability to go to national parks, man, that's what we love to do. So something along those lines. What's a favorite sports movie of yours?
Favorite sports movie? I'm gonna go with The Replacements. I don't know if you ever seen that one.
That's an older
Keanu
one, yeah.
Reeves. Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
older
right?
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Bef Pre-John Wick.
Yeah,
How
it's a
about a
little
favorite
bit of
sport to
an
watch? What's that?
sport to watch. Favorite sport to watch. Um, I'll be specific. I'm a big Eagles fan, so I'm gonna go NFL. Eagles football is my favorite sport to watch. Love to watch college basketball too. I'd say NFL, college football, then college basketball.
So are you a big Invincible fan? Vince Papale?
Well,
Or
man, I
you
don't
haven't
know if
seen that.
I.
That's a movie about a guy that walked on for the Eagles.
No, no. Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about. It's they did the Mark Wahlberg movie.
Mark Wahlberg. Yeah,
Yep.
it's based on a true story. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that. It's been a while, but yeah, that's a good movie. Yeah, it's been
How
a
about
while though, man.
favorite athlete to watch?
Favorite athlete, as far as highlight reels, obviously, because a little before my time, Barry Sanders was just an
Amazing.
incredible
Yep.
athlete. The way he moves was insane, and it's just fun to watch that kind of stuff.
Every once in a while, you'll see a player in a sport who looks like he's just doing something totally different. Like
Yeah.
everyone's playing, and then there's this guy, and he's one of those. You had a book for us you could recommend?
Um, Team of Teams is a really good book. I just finished reading not too long ago. I wish I could remember who wrote it, but it's about um the war in Iraq and how they had to kind of change their managerial structure within the military to kind of keep up with the fast-paced environment of the war in Iraq. But the author does a really good job of applying it to business type scenarios and things that we would have to experience in real life.
Gotcha.
Definitely an interesting read.
I have it written down. This next two questions, they could be fictional or they could be real life people. You have a superhero or a villain that you like?
Um, yeah, I'll start with villain. Definitely fictional, but I love Star Wars, so Darth Vader has always been kind of like the coolest villain in my book. There's just
For
something
sure.
about him.
Well, he has
Uh,
that conflict that people kind of identify a little bit.
yeah, it's weird. I don't know that any other like franchises really accomplish that where you root for the villain so much as they
Marvel
did.
does, with like the anti-hero with Deadpool and Wolverine, but they're still considered the heroes though. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hero wise, I've always been a big Batman guy. I just think there's something cool about just a normal guy out there fighting crime. He has enemies that are superhuman. He has enemies that are not super. It doesn't matter. He's gonna take them all on.
A lot of people say Batman for that reason. Yep, I like that. You got a favorite lift to do in the gym?
Uh, Bench press.
Okay. And then you got a quote for us.
Um, yeah. I mean the one quote that we talked about earlier. Just, every man is my superior in some way. So that one is always a good one. And then one that I use a lot with my athletes is how you do anything is how you'll do everything. You just if you don't give 100% to every task, if you don't do the details, the big picture's not coming.
Sure. Agreed. Where can people find you and the teams that you're supporting and what's going on? Where can they find you online?
Yeah, so the only thing I have is Instagram. So that's Andrew_Knueven. And then you can follow the Cougars at SIUE WBB or SIUE Hoops.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And for those, again, that want to reach out to us, info@athlete-builder.com. Again, we're powered by the AEA Institute. The Mental Edge Academy, that's our mental performance software where we work with high school, college, and pro athletes on building their mental performance. Andrew, great time today. Thanks for taking the time. Haven't I loved it. I'm so glad that Mark connected us and learned a lot, took notes. So, man, definitely worth my time. Thank you so much for the gift.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, we'll see you.